Zodwa was having a mother and daughter talk with Sibongile, her daughter, about the qualities to look for in a husband. She stressed that husband and wife should be as much alike as possible in interest and background. But Sibongile brought up the point that opposites often attract. My baby, Zodwa said emphatically, just being man and woman is opposite enough. So good evening and welcome to this very inaugural Rumble in the Jungle. Damn, I've spent the whole week promoting this one. I know that you are all waiting for it. I am waiting for it. It's going to be fun. I have invited two people I respect a lot. I respect their views. Obviously not agree with all of their views all of the time. And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? So we're gonna be having a lot of chat about the political economy of this country. And both my guests are very interested people in that topic. You must just follow them, especially on Twitter, and you will see when they deal with those issues. So I am not going to do much to introduce them. They will introduce themselves, and as Americans would say, and give us their claim to fame. But I can tell you this much, that I know that having them in this conversation is going to. So we call the feature Rumble in the Jungle. If you, as old as I am, you will know where I stole that one from. If you don't, Google is your friend. So this is going to happen every Thursday, and this show is going to be 1 hour long. So here are the rules. We will take your calls or your voice notes, at least voice notes on WhatsApp, 067271 8239. I'll get it right. Don't worry, I'll get it right. We will read them up when we take our break. So we'll take a break halfway through this conversation. We'll also read your comments on Facebook and Instagram, and then get our guests to reply. It will get heated sometimes. Trust me, guys, there won't be a fight. It's just a heated conversation and a debate. So don't think that my guests are fighting when they disagree. Don't worry about it. And you're not going to hear much of me. I'm going to be facilitating a conversation. You have seen Khandani twice on this show, and it is his fault that we are here today. He started us on this path. He brought amazing hot topics, and I thought, no, we got to talk about these things even some more. And then I spoke to him and I said, I want us to do it regularly, and he and I agreed, but we need somebody else, and preferably somebody who does not align with him in his thoughts, so that then it's a debate. If we have two people who are going to be boring. But the most important people in this conversation is going to be you, our followers. Your views are going to be so critical. Also because you said you wanted more of what Khandani had started. So it is his fault, and therefore he will be the first to start to introduce himself and tell us who Khandani Msibi is, what he does, and a bit of his story, really. Mr. Msibi, good evening.
Good evening, Rams, good evening, Unathi, and the viewers and the followers. As Rams have stated, my name is Khandani Msibi. I'm the Group CEO of 360 Global Solutions Group and the Mumside Investment Company. 360 is the biggest asset in the group. That's part of the reason why I lead it. It's a group that was built out of a funeral services business, Dows Group, and we've added insurance business, 360 Life, health business, 360 Health, which administers Caesar Medical Fund. We added retirement fund business, Salt, employee benefits. We added an asset management business, Accumulate. And our latest foray is into biotech. We are into African traditional medicine through a business called Ngoma, which falls on a division that we call 360 Herbal Health. It also under a subsidiary called 360 Biomedicine, which is invested in cannabis, in women's health. We think Rams were the most knowledgeable men about menstruation. And maybe that's one of the topics that you must deal with because menstrual health is a big thing for women, and we tend to be oblivious to what they go through. And as a group, we're investing in that area. We're investing in small molecules, classical pharmaceuticals. We have received a pharmaceutical license from SAPRA in a 360 biopharmaceutical. We're big time in COVID. We've launched remdesivir, and we're also doing some work with the CSIR on a COVID to put in the South African food forward in the global fight against COVID. We're looking into nuclear medicine as another area of investment in healthcare. So these are the things that I call my rights to speak. Yeah, I'm very passionate about the Black business. As you know, I'm a critic of BE. I think the South African business environment is ripe for a Black takeover. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so Unathi, when you are not getting Black Twitter hot under the collar, what else should we know about you?
My favorite people. Okay. I'm Unathi Kwaza from Khayelitsha. I was born in Worcester. It's part of the Western Cape, but I did all my schooling in the Eastern Cape until grade 12. And I studied food science and technology in Pentech, the then Peninsula Technicon, but it was merged with Cape Technicon. It's now what is it? CPUT. Yes.
CPUT now. Yeah.
Yes. Hasn't the ANC been great at changing names and fixing nothing? That's one of the examples. Yeah. So, so I worked in the food industry, laboratories, production, manufacturing, for about 9 years, and then I just decided that I needed to do my own thing. I started a business, direct sales and marketing. I basically sell stuff. I sell a lot of products. Hopefully, when government decides that what is this now, the cannabis industry can be freed and fully operational, who knows? Maybe I can sell those products as well. But mainly, I just love freedom. I love liberty. I love. You'll hear me talk about property rights because I feel that these are important things in everyone's life. And I'm glad to be on your show. I'm glad to meet Mr. Msibi. And I look forward to many more talks like this one because I feel that we need to join heads and hands to fix this country. In the last 26 years, we've left the trajectory that we started from, and we've totally lost it. And I feel that we need a lot of people to join their minds and try to find solutions to the problems that we see today. So that's Unathi in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. And therefore, folks, that is the beginning of Rumble in the Jungle. This is probably the last time you're going to hear it mild. Now let's take the volume up a little bit. And I'm going to go back to you, Unathi, and say, what is not working with the South African economy currently, in your opinion, and what is working with the economy currently?
Nothing is working, Ram. From, was it the 27th or 29th of March when the president declared that we should all go on lockdown, and from the onset, I felt that the regulations that they chose were too stringent for an economy like ours, which was unfortunately which had been downgraded further into junk. I mean, right at that point in time, Moody's had just downgraded us, and they were the last uh,
Rating
or
agency.
entities to rating agencies to do that. So I felt that politicians didn't think this one through, and I mean I never felt that South Africa we were hardly hit by coronavirus more than Italy, more than Europe at large, more than China, more than the US. But the reaction from government was very hard-handed, and unfortunately, it took us backwards. I mean, by miles. And that's why we are where we are. That's why we see small businesses, businesses that, in general, struggling. That's why we're seeing more poverty. More people are seeking uh, um, help as far as food is concerned, or they are going to their banks to ask for more time to pay their, whether it's bonds or their cars, or anything that they have to pay their bills. So um, goodness, the results are there for all to see, and we haven't seen even I feel we're still gonna see more tragedy, if I may put it like that, more bad results as time goes on, because we're now on level 2, and we don't know when we'll be on level 1. If it was up to me, if I was president of this country, I would just get rid of this lockdown totally, and just get on with the business of the day of running the country, because it seems to me that everything else has taken the back seat, and we're not running the country. The president is not running the country. The health minister is only counting who died and from COVID, and unfortunately, some of these people didn't actually die from COVID, but that's what they're telling us, and that's what the media is telling us, and so as if it were up to me, we'd get rid of the lockdown, and we just let people go to find works to find work, and let people run their businesses, those who are lucky enough to still have something to salvage from their businesses. So that's where I am in my thinking, and so I don't see anything good that is happening
Okay.
currently. I mean,
How,
unless you're a entrepreneur, and you got contracts with government, even if your company was open just 3 weeks ago. And so those are the lucky people, the lucky few, and unfortunately, most of us are not that lucky.
However, Unathi, there is a school of thought that says the 500 billion that government made available actually did not benefit these few tenderpreneurs, as you call them, who got the COVID-19 deals. That it actually went to the banks for, for relief, it went to the big businesses. Those are the ones that are access this. These are the guys that are kept in business, while the small businesses, the black businesses, did not really achieve much out of this thing. So there are people who say you can't be using 5-10 companies that got PPE deals and equate that to the only people who benefited from COVID.
Mm. I hear what you're saying, but I mean, it's not 5 or 10 people. Just look at the list of the companies in Free State alone. That's one province out of 9 that got tenders from government. I mean, the people who've been eating at the trough in government are the usual suspects. They're connected to the well-known ANC people, and they know how to share amongst themselves, how to share the pie amongst themselves, and I mean, it's not just 5, 10 people. It's a lot of people. I don't know in the Western Cape who's eating. I'm sure there's someone who's eating, yeah, even. But because think about it, Rams. Everything has stopped. We're not talking about HIV prevention. We're not talking about fighting TB, which is easily treatable and curable. We're not talking about lifestyle diseases, your diabetes and all that. We only talk about them when we talk about COVID deaths. So there's a lot of things we're no longer doing, and we've decided, the government decided for us that we have to take all the money and focus. I mean, even here in the Western Cape, I get frustrated when I read tweets from the premier or the people who govern us in the DA, talking about so many beds have been set aside for COVID people, And I'm asking myself, where were they in January or the other months when patients have to sleep on the floor? Patients who are in hospital for other illnesses. I mean, why has COVID become the main thing that can kill someone? And but even then, the truth is that most people with COVID do recover from the illness, and so it seems to me everything is about politics. People want to show off, and show, I mean, Gauteng. If I can talk about Gauteng, they will talk about also the beds. We have so many beds for COVID people. And yet, not long ago, we were talking live Esidimeni, and people who actually died. I mean, just now, I know if you can go to some of these notorious hospitals in Gauteng, you'll find people sleeping on the floors. So for me, as a South African, the COVID is not more important than anything else. We need to continue to look at the bigger picture when we deal with any other illness. Otherwise, we're just failing the people that we're supposed to be helping out.
Okay. Mr. Msibi, what is not working with our economy? And you feel free to respond to what Unathi just said, and you can also tell me what you believe is working.
Yeah, no, I do have a small confession to make. Ne?
Yeah. You just went faint there.
Yeah, no, I blocked her on Twitter, Unathi. Ne?
Oh.
We have contrary views in a lot of things. And my style of engagement in life is about pragmatism. Right? There's no use complaining. I mean, you can complain about the world's approach to COVID. And it doesn't mean that you are right, because COVID is such a complex issue that, yes, there are politics in COVID, but we cannot deny that there is a virus that has attacked the world. We just don't know the extent to which some of the claims are actually false. But the extent of the politics is even demonstrated by the manner in which Putin branded his vaccine Sputnik. Right? It was really taking what should have been a scientific invention by Russia into a hot political potato. Right? And we've also seen how the countries that have the means and the science have actually bullied the rest of the world with a Trump booking Gilead Sciences' capacity for the production of remdesivir exclusively for the US. So there are politics in a COVID, and our country has not handled COVID the best way that it could, because we've had an advantage of being amongst the last to be affected, right? But we've exposed ourselves to the same level of disruption as countries that were caught by surprise. We're not caught by surprise. We knew what COVID is doing around the world, and we could have assessed the right and the wrong approaches. But here's my thing about COVID. There's a man that I follow, Dan Pina. He talks about the greatest transformation of wealth in the history of the planet. That what COVID has done, it has opened up, it has shattered this South African's economy, which is a wide economy. Whenever I speak about South Africa's economy, I don't say our economy, because I don't feel that I have a stake in this economy. And someone might say, but you run a big business. But I don't speak just on behalf of myself. I speak on behalf of who I am, which is an African man in South Africa, who is typically excluded from the economy. But what I see, which is something that we should be thinking about, is that COVID has disrupted business as it exists. it's almost like taking the economy to a near zero position, whereby we as a black business should be leveraging the opportunity instead of bemoaning the impact of COVID on business which we don't own. We should be saying, how do we take advantage of this COVID opportunity? Because COVID created disruption. And in some of the sectors, it has almost like pushed the zero button. And that zero button is a start from the scratch. And I'm seeing lots of opportunities, right? Opportunities that have been taken up by a number of young people that are beginning to manufacture and supply goods. Be they broilery and slaughtering the chicken, be they bread manufacturing, be they textile. I think there's for me, COVID with all of its problems, because at the end of the day, we have to move on, right? Beyond the mistakes of the politicians and beyond the wrong decisions that the world may or may not have made about the COVID, into saying, from where we are now, where do we go? And what I see is that from where we are now, all the black people that are in managerial position should be thinking about owning businesses, should be thinking about competing with their employers, should be thinking about taking advantage of the greatest disruption ever in business that have provided a zero base in a number of sectors. I mean, you've heard companies like Heineken rumored to wanting to close. We know they're not closing, but the impact is such that we should be looking at the opportunities to create our own lager products, our own taverns. Instead of going back to ordering in Kudu, they could be brewing on site. And getting the kind of margins that are that they've never imagined, right? So I think politicians will always make decisions that favor their opportunity to be re-elected. I think if we understand that politicians are about re-election, they are not about the delivery, right? Because if politicians were about delivery, Unathi will be much more grateful to the ANC that today she runs a business. And in apartheid days, she wouldn't have been allowed to run a business.
No. That's not true.
No, I know it for a fact,
no, it's
because
not true.
I administer Caesar Medical Fund, which was started in 1978. We'll send you the book we wrote on Caesar Medical Fund after we interviewed the founders of Caesar Medical Fund. As a black person, you were not allowed to start a business. You were not allowed to start the P2I Limited. You're not allowed to open a business bank account. That was reality. The industries that emerged out of there, that were black, they emerged out of violence. The taxi industry is violent today because it was born out of violence. It was born out of taking a market by force from the bus industries, which remain subsidized today. And the taxi industry is not subsidized, right? So you're competing here with somebody who gets money from the state in order to function, and you don't get a cent from the state, right? The tuck shop industry, when it emerged as illegal businesses. You're not allowed to run a shop in your own house. The municipal bylaws don't allow that, right? So in order to do that, it means that you have to undermine the existing laws of the country, right? So the relationship that we have with the ANC as a ruling party, right, is sometimes influenced by unrealistic analysis of what happens. Is the ANC perfect? Never. It's not perfect, right? Is the corruption tolerable? Never. But reality is that white business corruption will forever dwarf black corruption, forever, right? Because the whole thing that we're running around over Kusela Diko's husband who got 120 million rands. We don't even know what is the margin. We're sitting with Eskom where people pay themselves 5 billion rands for not delivering anything. Right? So the 5 billion rands is a profit. It is not the revenue. The 120 million rands is revenue. It is not profit. Right? But we are made to focus on this as if it signals the end of the world. Whereas you have a situation where the greatest crime committed against SOEs is done by established business.
I know Unathi is burning to reply, but I need to pick up on something you spoke about, Ed, and Unathi, I'm going to give you all the time to reply. But Khandani, you make it sound so simple to me. You know, I remember 1995, 96, a brewery was born called Vivo. It was black.
Yes.
Mahanyele and them started that. And the big boys destroyed them the same way Coca-Cola destroyed Pepsi when the black guys came in and got the franchise of Pepsi into this country. So I'm trying to imagine, Madinama in my neighborhood in Dobsonville and all her friends in the taverns trying to put together a brewery of their own. If SA breweries could destroy Vivo, I wonder how Madinama and others are going to survive SA breweries.
No, the Guinea is out of the box. There was a time when it was easy for established white business to destroy black business. And you have to understand that this is a history of white business. That it has always used the police, it has used the refusal of the banks to fund black business, it has used the supply chain in order to undermine thriving black business. But that has changed, right? And I see it, a lot of it, right? In that, and it doesn't mean that the situation is perfect for us, because we still lack the social and economic infrastructure that supports black business. One of the things that you need to understand is that in South Africa's economy is owned along white tribal lines. You've got the Afrikaners, the English, the Jewish, the Greek. And what is peculiar about these white tribal groupings is that they all had a bank, right? There's a bank or banks that they relied on, right? Which then supports the underlying community businesses. We still don't have that. But I think the critical mass that we have has created small businesses that are able to survive on community, family, and individual savings. I mean, a young man who produces 1,000 loaves of bread, or who produces 1,000 units of a detergent for dishwashing, right, does not need that much of a bank capital, right? But where we are, we need thousands of those in order to append this thing, right? And we can append it if we get the critical mass. We're not going to have a black bank anytime soon, because the banks have made sure when they invented BEE that the politicians don't have the incentive to create black banks or the state bank, but have the incentive to maintain the status quo. So reliance on the politicians for our economic emancipation is failing. But we cannot put ourselves where we fail to rely on ourselves, and we fail to take daily actions that actually take us forward as a people.
I want to give you a chance to respond, Unathi, but I want to give you a long period of time to respond. So let's do this. Go grab a cup of coffee, a glass of whiskey, a glass of wine, something serious, or maybe just lots of water. We're going to take a 2-3 minute break. Everybody else, don't move. When we come back, we continue with the rumble in the jungle.
Talk with Rams Live brings you a new streamcast on Saturdays called 10 Questions, where our host, Rams Mabote, answers 10 business questions from you. Take part in the show by sending your question as a video or voice note to 067 271 8239. or else uzoitola kanjani? Talk with Rams Live brings you a new streamcast on Saturdays called 10 Questions, where our host, Rams Mabote, answers 10 business questions from you. Take part in the show by sending your question as a video or voice note to 067 271 8239. Or else uzoitola kanjani? Talk with Rams Live brings you a new streamcast on Saturdays called 10 Questions, where our host, Rams Mabote, answers 10 business questions from you. Take part in the show by sending your question as a video or voice note to 067 271 8239. Or else uzoitola. Talk with Rams Live brings you a new streamcast on Saturdays called 10 Questions, where our host, Rams Mabote, answers 10 business questions from you. Take part in the show by sending your question as a video or voice note to 067 271 8239. Or else uzoitola kanjani? Talk with Rams Live brings you a new streamcast. Talk with Rams Live brings you a new streamcast on Saturdays called 10 Questions, where our host, Rams Mabote, answers 10 business questions from you. Take part in the show by sending your question as a video or voice note to 067 271 8239. Or else, uzoithola kanjani? Talk with
So welcome back. We took a short break. I got myself some more drink. I'm not going to tell you what is inside this drink, but I can tell you something I need for this conversation. That's all I'll say. But it's also legal, which is very important that we keep it legal. It's Rumble in the Jungle. My guests are Khandani Msibi and Unathi Kwaza. Unathi, we've lost a bit. I hope she comes back to join us because I wanted her to respond to the comments Khandani made earlier. But while we're waiting for Unathi, Khandani, Thabo Mbeki made a comment years ago where he said that South Africa is a country of two economies, one black and poor, and the other one white and rich. This is probably 15, 20 years ago. Does that still stand?
Thabo said we're a two-nation state.
Yes. So are we still a two-nation state?
We're very much a two-nation state. And I think the ANC, with its policies, has exacerbated the situation in that the one that was white and rich is now white and richer, and the part that was black and poor is black and poorer, with a few of the blacks that have become multimillionaires. But if you're to look at the black people that have become multimillionaires out of the majority of them have not built anything new. They have not created any new products. They have not created new industries. They have not disrupted the status quo as it exists. They have, as it were, been co-opted and become rich. Right? And I think the difficulty that we have as black professionals instead of wanting to maintain the status quo and not wanting to disrupt it and not wanting to create new entities and create new economies out of what exists. And all that it does, in fact, the sad thing runs about the BEE process is that it was a transference of wealth from the poor to some black middle class. Because you and me, when we are members of the retirement fund, and our funds are invested in Sanlam, when Sanlam does a BEE deal and give one politician free shares, they are taken from us who are retirement fund contributors. So BEE in its sense was not a transference of wealth from white people to the black elite. It was a transference of wealth from the black poor to the black elite. That's how it was structured, right? And that is why we went nowhere with the BEE. We produce billionaires, but we haven't created a new economy.
Khandani, thank you for that. Unathi, thank you for coming back. We thought we lost you, and Khandani and I were panicking that this could be construed as GBV. I'm glad that you're back, and we are not doing that at all. I had asked a question that Khandani was responding to, but I want us to go back to what got you hot under the collar just before the break, and I want to give you all your time to respond to it before we deal with the BEE issue.
You know, Rams, I'm sitting here listening to a well-established businessman, a black businessman. I don't know if people who always put black people and see them as these victims of white people, I don't know if they ever sit down and listen and listen to themselves, because I mean, goodness, we have policies that most policies in this country are pro-black people. And yet we still have someone as successful as Mr. Msibi saying all these things about how black people are still marginalized, how BE is not working. Well, the ANC chose BEE as policy in this country. Then, if it's not working, I say scrap it. And I don't know. I feel that the talk of seeing ourselves as black people as these victims for perpetual victims of apartheid and even in 2020 doesn't take us anywhere. I feel that we should be talking really about how do we empower young people, especially because I feel that young people in this country are the most affected by government incompetence. Young people are the most affected by poverty in this country. I mean, you can be you can graduate and have your certificate and all that, but because there are no jobs for you as a young person, there are no prospects, future prospects that look bright for you as a young person. You find yourself having to go back to study even further. I mean, I've seen, especially on Twitter, when people post, I've got a BSc in engineering plus this, plus that, plus this, plus that. And I feel sorry for young people because having all this education doesn't mean anything if you're not going to apply what you learned. I mean, how do you get to age 30 and never having had a proper job as a young person? It's really sad. I mean, back in the day, I'm 42 now, proudly so. I know
You,
the
you look
people usually say
22.
we.
You look
She
22.
looks 22. I agree. She
Yeah.
looks 22.
Thank you. I mean, I remember we went to. I didn't go to university. We went to college, or you can say a technical. And the good thing that they did back then is that we had companies. The Technicon worked with companies in my case, food industry, because that's where I was. So we had to do 2 years theory and 1 year in service training. And in that 1 year of in service training, we always had jobs. That's the thing. Starting from I started in '97 at Technicon. We always had jobs. So when it was time for you as a young person to go and find in-service training, there were always companies who were list. I mean, you would go to a notice board. There were these companies who were listing like we want this many students, and that helped us because sometimes you'd even get a job. You'd be lucky you're working in this company and you do in-service training, and then an opportunity comes for a job, a vacancy comes, and then they take you if you're good in what you're doing. So we don't see those things in today's South Africa.
But you
A
can't
lot
blame
has
government
happened.
for
A lot.
that.
Yes, we can. It's not easy to do business in this country, mainly because of government policies. So we can blame government for that. It's I mean, and it's becoming even more difficult, especially if you running a small business. The SMME sector, even now with the lockdown, are the hardest hit because they don't have this big money to go to challenge ridiculous lockdown rules in the courts or in Supreme Court or Constitutional Court. If you don't have money to do that as a business, you just wait for government to change. You wait for politicians to be in a good mood to decide today that okay, I'm unbanning cigarettes, I'm unbanning alcohol, and then we don't know next week. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma can probably have a bad day and decide, and Cyril Ramaphosa can decide that oh, you guys smoke too much, and let's take away your civil liberties again. And it's unfortunate. That's how politics are run in this country. That's how the lockdown has been run, and citizens don't have rights basically. And for me, to say that black people are so marginalized, black people can't do anything, you're not giving young people hope in South Africa, especially young black people. Are we talking about fixing public education? We're not talking about that. Are we talking about fixing public health care sector? We're not talking about. about that. Are we talking about being successful in fighting crime? We're not talking about that. We're just talking about, oh, poor black people, oh, woe unto us, things are so terrible for us. It's not true. We have policies in this country that are pro-black, and how if they're not working, what? Let's see what is it that's not working. And if I mean, for me, obviously, I will always say that Drawing would be it's not serving anyone. It's only serving the ANC fat cats. Why do you need such a policy? Why do you need, after apartheid, why do you still need a policy that prefers one over the other? It doesn't make sense to me. So that's where we'll always disagree. I will always disagree with Mr. Msibi.
Because it's our first episode, I promised myself I won't be interrupting both of you a lot, so that I allow you to put your, what I would call, your manifestos on the table first. But when you go forward, I'll be doing a lot of interruption. But I wanted to interrupt you on this one and ask you one question, and hopefully you can respond in a quick way than in an elongated way, Unathi. My question is, are you saying that big business is faultless in all this? So government is all with the bad policies, and big business, imsulwa, they're doing all that is good. The problem is only government.
Absolutely not. Big business is part of the problem in this country. And how do they do that? They think that by because now, I mean, big businesses will always find opportunities to rather be cronies instead of be proactive in building this economy. For instance, they will take a Cyril Ramaphosa here, give them who's black, and give him shares in a certain big company, and give him money, give him shares, and then they think that that's all that's needed to run an economy. So by doing so, because Cyril Ramaphosa has got a political capital, he has influence in the governing party, which is the ANC in South Africa. So that way, that influence will ensure that big businesses' ways of doing things I mean, the status quo remains, nothing changes. So how do we really, in such an environment, how do we actually make sure that even the smaller businesses have an opportunity to grow? So big business uses their money and influence in political circles to ensure that the status quo remains. So they're also
I hope she comes back. We left with 10 minutes to the end. I'm not going to introduce another topic, but I'm going to say, Mr. Msibi, your chance to respond to Khandani, to Unathi.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully she's still there. Rams, Unathi makes a statement about black people being helpless as a result of the oppression. And I wanted to draw her to historical events and even recent historical events. That we come from slavery, apartheid, and slavery, colonization, and apartheid. These are the things that we suffered over 450 years as African, ever since Jan van Riebeeck landed here. Right? There has been a systemic attack on our livelihood and on our ability to actually look after ourselves.
Talk with Rams Live brings you a new stream cast.
And I wanted to draw her to two events. The first event is that the Jewish people got reparation for the operation that they went through under the German people, right? And then not so long ago, in an era that she's aware of, when white business was hit by COVID, right? The state put together a 500 billion rand rescue package. Why is it that the black people should not get any reparation, any assistance, right, from the state, right? And if you had to look at all the transformation of economies for people that were previously oppressed, they relied on the state for the transformation. The the legislation of BEE that Unathi says must be scrapped, I agree with her for different reasons, because BEE does not benefit Black people. Unathi at 42, even though she looks 22, is old enough to remember that we have never asked or struggled for BEE. We've struggled for Black power. We've struggled for Black business to get the same equal rights and the same equal access. Right? My thing is not about owning shares in any white businesses. It's about equal platform to compete with them, right? And across all the areas where we're invested, right? We're not bodies a BEE partner. We're in insurance. We run an insurance business, right? We want equal access to the market. We run a medical aid administration business. We want equal access to the market. But that equal access does not exist. In fact, the laws of this country are not in favor of Black people. They are against Black people. Right? All the regulated industries in South Africa are the most profitable, but yet the most hostile to Black business. All of them. And some more than others. But that's a reality, that the Black business is not necessarily favored in this environment. If you think about it, that in apartheid, there was African Bank, there was League Bank, and today all of them are gone, right? Including VBS, which had thrived under in apartheid. And I want to, for a moment, opportunistically dismiss the corruption that took place at VBS and draw to you the fact that when African Bank, which is white-owned, was in trouble, it was not discarded. It was rescued. The Reserve Bank put money in it, and it instructed the banks to put money in it. But VBS did not get the same kind of treatment, which means that the state and its institutions have a preference for white business. It will rescue white business, and it will destroy Black business. So I'm with Unathi. Do away with business, with BEE. We never asked for it. All that BEE did was that when we came out of apartheid, as soon as there was BEE, Black business ceased to exist. Because if you started a business because, if as a Black person, you started a business, that business was not Black. Right? It needed to qualify to be Black. And they opened a door for white business to become Black. So it's not the kind of legislation that you can say favor us. And she correctly pointed out that they co-opted politicians so that these politicians can avoid making decisions that will allow Black business to come into the space of white business and provide competition. So I'm saying Black business need equality. We don't need to be included by anybody, because if people have to include you in the economy, they decide the extent to which you are included, and they decide how far you can go. We need equal access to funding. We need equal access to government tenders. People, in this country, the most tenders go to white business, right? But the perception is that they go to Black business. Swiss Port has bribed someone who was testifying at a state commission who is Black. But nobody is saying that Swiss Port is corrupt, because we've been programmed to be against ourselves so that we see this Black man to be corrupt, but people don't see that actually the scandal is that a European company has actually bribed and corrupted a local Black person. And that's not the story. The story is about this guy who is talking in tongues, not knowing what he does, mentions, and the prosecutor is showing that the Swiss Port gave 30 million rands. But Swiss Port is not a story.
Okay.
Swiss Port is not a story.
Okay. We are running out of time. Unathi, I'm going to give you the last word to respond to whatever you want to respond to give an overarching statement, and then we'll agree on what we talk about when we come back next week. It could be Swissport, it could be SOEs, it could be VBS, whatever it is, but I'm going to give you the last word uninterrupted. Go for it.
I think to say that big companies or European companies like Swissport are not in the news, it's not true because I mean these stories. Remember, Rams have been in the media for years now, and the state capture commissions only comes in the last 3 years. While these stories have been there, the media have been reporting on them. I mean, I can think of the others like Chinese companies. When you talk about the rail programs that we've had in in this country, and how black, especially black people, have been a few actually PE partners have been bribed so that these companies can get contracts from government. So to say that then that it's only the poor guy who's now in the hot seat. Yes, he's in the hot seat because he was given responsibility as I don't know what I think he was a director of that company. And I mean, they seem to find as far as I'm concerned, they find the sort of the biggest scam, if I can put it that way, of people. I mean, he says he said that there's on the commission that he brought in his daughter. His daughter was still studying and not even interested in aviation, and yet he thought that this was the right person for the job. And yet we have so many young people out there who are qualified to be in these industries who will never find a job without sleeping with a known politician, without bribing someone to get these jobs. It's just it's totally unacceptable, and I refuse to see black people in this picture as victims of obviously wherever there's a corrupt company, there's always there's also someone who's a corruptee. So to then say, I mean, I feel that post 94, I actually expected more from this government. I expected people of honor really to take the bait from the apartheid government and do better. Look at the state of education in this country. It's a travesty that young people still walk. I mean, there was a story just last week about a young man, a young person who walks 20 kilometers to school. 20 kilometers in 2020. Who does that? Where is the money? Why is a Department of Education not funding transport for these children to get an opportunity? I mean, they're expected to compete with kids from private schools. How are they going to do that? When you get to school, you're so hungry and tired. I mean, it's just it's criminal, if you ask me, what this government is doing to children.
I will tell you what is not criminal. What is not
Mm.
criminal is this conversation. And this makes me so excited. I want us to do this forever and ever. So before I conclude with the two of you, let me read two comments from two people who are watching us now. First person is Nico Smith. And I'm seeing Nico Smith for the first time here, and I can only attribute it to one of you. Somebody who follows one of you knows that we're doing this and they came to join us. Nico, welcome. Stay here, follow us, like us, do your notifications so that you see all our programming. We don't only do these two esteemed guests, we got amazing programming throughout the week. So Nico says, sorry, man. In fact, I'm going to start with the first one. He says, but apartheid is long gone, and Nan van Riebeeck died in 1677. I didn't even know when he died exactly, by the way. Don't you think it's time to look at the future? So, sir, I suppose he refers to you, Khandani. I differ from you. What about all South Africans? Then he continues, sorry, man, but you surely have a serious problem with white. Give proof that whites get most tenders. Jeez, Louise, such a waste of energy. I'm switching. Don't switch. Stay, mate. You must send it. That's not how it works. You can't say thanks, Unathi, for always being true to yourself and not want to listen to the other view, Nico. That's poor. I was liking your comment, but you can't run away because you're hearing a different view. Lerato Ratos Mokosi says, it would be naive of us to think that we are in equal footing with white businesses or business, as they had a significant head start to all black business. So in as much as apartheid is long gone, its effects are still presently felt today. Systematically, white business is favored. I agree with Babu Khandani. Thank you for the comments, guys. I'd like to hear more. I'd like for Nico and everybody else to vote for Unathi and everyone else to vote for for Babu Khandani, doesn't matter. I want us to have a conversation. I want us to have a heated conversation because that's the only way we're going to solve the issues of this country. I don't think we can leave it in the hands of the politicians. I'm a very small platform, but I believe that we can get ourselves talking and find solutions among ourselves. And hopefully, we will be the ones that draft the new economic policies of this country from this small platform. So thank you very much, Unathi and Khandani, for round one of the Rumble in the Jungle. We shall be back with you next week, Thursday. So please make sure that you are ready for a bigger fight. Behind the scenes, we will agree on the next topic. We will advertise it for the rest of next week. And certainly we'll see you next week. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
And thank you very much to all of you for joining us. We shall do this every Thursday, 7:30 to 8:30. If we don't lose Unathi, we will finish at 8:30. We are slightly past the time because we had to give her time to come back. I hope next week we don't lose her and we don't get accused of GBV, Khandani and I. Thank you very much, Frederick, for putting it together. It was the very first time that we had two guests at the same time. And I'm glad that we pulled it off in the very first instance. On Monday, we're back with Motivation Monday. Dr. T is going to be joining us as usual on Monday. Have yourself a great weekend further. It's my break. No more coffee. We're now moving to something more stronger for the rest of the weekend. From me, Rems Mabote, good night and God bless.